Hello, I'm Mr Hampton and I'm the Head of Science here at Sherburn High. I'm just here to talk to you a little bit about the GCSE Science and what we've got in place to make sure our students do really well. Now the first thing worth noting is that we do AQA for Science, and that Science isn't as simple as GCSE Science. Now there are two pathways that our students will be going, and the vast majority of our Science students will be doing combined trilogy Science. Now, what this is made up of is all three sciences, biology, chemistry and physics, and they will be doing two papers of each one, each an hour and 15. It's the equivalent of two GCSEs, and the way the students will be getting their GCSEs are either like a 5-4 or 5-5, 9-8, etc. All of the grades from all of the papers add up to the final grades, so it's important that students focus on all of their sciences and just not the ones that they prefer. There are two tiers of papers. There is a higher tier and a foundation tier. On the foundation tier, the maximum students can get is a 5-5. On the higher paper, the minimum they can get is a 4-4. Now, if they get below that 4-4 grade, they drop down to a U. That's why it's really important that students in their PPEs or in their classrooms are proving that they should be on those higher papers. They're a very safe bet because we don't want to have to risk it and end up with a student dropping off. Thankfully, we have never had that happen yet. Now, our top few sets are being taught the separate science curriculum. Now, the content there is more, but it's brilliant, it's science. We're a fan of giving these students the opportunity to do as much science as they want. But the key thing is, all of the science content from the combined science is in separate science, there is just additional content on top of it. Now, there are still two papers, biology, chemistry and physics, but they're an hour and 45 opposed to an hour and 15, what gives you the extra time to test that extra GCSE's work. Now, students who do sit the separate science papers will be sitting a GCSE in biology, chemistry and physics, and they will get, once again, a grade based on whether they sit the higher or foundation paper. Now, I did say that the top few sets were being taught the separate science curriculum. However, it's up to the students to prove whether we enter them for the final science grades. All students in Year 11s and Year 10s at first will be sitting a combined trilogy PPE paper. If students are doing incredibly well on that, absolutely, let's aim for the stars. Let's get you on to trialling one of these separate science papers to see if we can get you that extra GCSE. However, if students are not doing well on those combined trilogy papers, there isn't any point entering students into those separate papers because there's just more content, and we see a student's grade slip from potentially a 6 to a 5 on the biology, chemistry and physics papers, and they end up with 3 5s, opposed to if they were doing, say, the higher papers, being able to push that up into, say, a 7-7. Now, within all, whether it's separate or combined science, they have the same assessment objectives. There's demonstrating knowledge that is weighted at 40% of every paper, applying knowledge that is weighted at 40% of every paper, and analysing information and ideas that is weighted at 20%. Now, this demonstrating knowledge is basically pure fact recall. Have you worked out that the universal indicator, the pH of an acid is 1 to 6? Do you know an alkali is 8 to 14? Do you know that something that is neutral is green? Lots and lots of that. 40% of that paper. Now, if we have a very quick look at the 2019 grade boundaries, the last set of exams we got, on a higher paper, in order to get a 5-5, the percentage that students need was 30%. That is 10% below just the knowledge recall in that paper. In order to get a 9-9, students only need to get 64%. Once again, that is below, well, that is obviously higher, but that is a good chunk of that 64% can be taken up from just knowledge recall. Now, I can't guarantee these grade boundaries are going to be the same. They will change, and we would expect them to go up as students are realising they need to learn lots and lots of this knowledge. And in order to address this sort of knowledge situations as well as lessons, we have got these student revision guides and flashcards on Parent Tray now. We've put these knowledge maps up on Google Classrooms, and what else we have is we've invested in something called Tassami. Now, we've had great success with this in the past. If you look at the Science Department's 2019 grades, last year that they sat exams, we were above average in every single science paper, in every single measure. And I'm a true believer in it actually being because our students had so much knowledge, they absolutely smashed that AO1. And a lot of that practice and knowledge did come from them using this Tassomai program. Now, what Tassomai is it's just a way of getting students to retain that knowledge, lots of repetition practice. Remember, practice makes perfect, sort of like how you learnt your spellings at primary school. And it just avoids students trying to cram everything at the last minute, because the new GCSEs are too big, too much knowledge in them to be able to successfully do that. Now, the way it works is you've got to think of it like a interactive set of flashcards. You work through the questions, answering them, getting them right or getting them wrong. The questions that they get right, Tassomai will put towards the back of the deck. They will bring it up every so often for that lovely interleaving sort of spaced learning. But you've proved that you know those questions, so let's not worry about them. Although the questions you're getting wrong, it will put at the top of that deck. Okay, so you're doing those questions more and more and more. The most important thing with your Tassomai though is that you're logging in and remembering to do it, your daily goal, 4 times in a week. Now, what the quizzes actually look like and what the app looks like is this. So this is just a picture of someone's phone, and they've got their number here, their daily goals. A student has to complete the full 35 daily goals. Now, what I do get asked from parents sometimes is how can they check their students been completing their daily goal? The easiest way is just ask them to show you the phone. So this circle will be full and it will say daily goal complete. I will also be looking at getting the weekly emails of students' progress from their Tassomai emailed home. Hopefully we'll be getting that up and running soon. Students have a choice of questions. Like I said, this is based on which topics that they need to work on themselves. So at first everyone will start off the same, but the more you use the Tassomai, the more information it gets on you, the more accurate it will be able to give you the questions. The quizzes themselves are quite simple. They're just a multiple choice quiz. If you get it right, it will go green, and if you get it wrong, it will go red. And it will give you a chance to look back and go over the content there. But once again, the most important thing is to remember that students log in and complete their daily goal 4 times a week. Now, as well as the students actually being able to practice something at their homes without being in the classroom, us as teachers, we get an absolute huge amount of data on this, what is incredibly important. I'm just going to show you some of this. So, this is a year 11 class from a couple of years ago, and I can see how much progress the individual students have made, how many questions, how many correct questions, how long they've spent, their total progress, the final predicted progress. There was loads of information about how much they'd used the app. I could go into an individual student. Now, this is Megan, one of our current year 11s. She's doing absolutely fantastic, and it is worth mentioning now that Megan has only had Tassomai since year 9. Now, I can see in the last 7 days she's done it 21 times. She's done it 481 days since then, and she spent a total time of 127 hours in the app. Now, this is just from doing it 10 to 15 minutes a day, and that has added up to almost 28 weeks worth of extra science lessons. I don't think there's a single person watching this that doesn't honestly believe that that will not make a difference. Now, I can go a bit further into students' information and their data. This is Brad. Now, the way it's reported to us as teachers is a simple red, amber, green and blue being what they called it mastered. Now, on the surface level, Brad looks like his biology, chemistry and physics is all pretty good. It is worth mentioning that Brad did get 3 9s in his separate science GCSEs. And actually, if I click on his chemistry, I can go in and say, well, actually, there's a few topics that are still green. I can go even further in. I can go right down and see, well, actually, although Brad is pretty good at most of this chemical change topics, he's quite a way off on these redox and this electrolysis sort of topics, and that's something we can focus on in class, or we can use in P6, and it's a really quick fix, and it gives everybody that key information, what they really need to focus on, opposed to that generic, oh, I'm rubbish at science, I need to do some science revision, or chemistry. Actually, what Brad needs to look at here is redox equations. Now, one of the things I do get students saying to me quite a lot is, yeah, but I'm not actually learning it, I just learned the answer to the question. And they are true, it doesn't help with the applying that knowledge, and it doesn't help with interpreting graphs. But you know what it does do? It helps with that 40% of that paper that is just going to be knowledge recall. If you have learnt that the process of cell division is mitosis, when that question comes up, you're going to get it right. Now I'm going to leave you with one final thought. And hopefully, through the practice of repetition, you already know the answer of this. But please remember, the most important thing that the students are doing with their task is logging in and doing it 4 times in a week. Thank you very much.